because these guys are phenomenal. Within the past 2 decades, 2 of Detroit's finest creative artists have received great recognition for their life work, which spans both of the Renaissances in Chicago and in Detroit, and bring us all the way up to today. The Troy, Michigan-based Kresge Foundation in 2008 awarded its premier Kresge Eminent Artist Award to Charles McGee, declaring, quote, I was so intrigued by Charles McGee. We went on the web, we researched this man. What a story. As a community, the award program declared, we celebrate the creative brilliance of Charles McGee and cherish his unwavering artistic leadership in the region. The president and CEO of the Kresge Foundation underscored the tremendous benefit of having artists in our midst. Quote, artists elevate our awareness. They unify, they provoke and challenge and inspire us. And by making their lives here in Detroit, they validate continuously our decision to do so as well. Charles McGee was born on a farm near Clemson, South Carolina, moved to Detroit in 1934 at the age of 10 to live with his mother, who died shortly thereafter. And when he came to Detroit, he couldn't even write his name. An amazing artist, characterized by discipline, passion, and an extraordinary drive towards excellence. In the 1970s, Charles McGee countered the exclusion of black artists from white galleries in Detroit by organizing in 1968, quote, Detroit's first group show, 7 black artists. He followed that by opening his own establishment, Gallery 7, to help promote the works of artists without regard to their racial identity. His work is on display, of all places, here at the Wright Museum. In 2009, the recipient of the Kresge Eminent Artist Award was Marcus Belgrave, who was influenced by the great Louis Armstrong. Writer Claudia Campus entitled her essay about Belgrave, A Syncopated Journey for Detroit's Jazz Master Laureate. Belgrave refers to Detroit as, quote, the Mecca of the music world. In 1963, when Detroit was the 5th largest city in America, Belgrave insists, quote, this was probably the only place in the country where music was #1. When one considers the significance of Belgrave's work at Motown, there is no reason to quarrel with his assessment when he explains, quote, Berry Gordy used jazz musicians to create the Motor City sound. Jazz musicians were the only ones who could do it. I said, whoa. According to Belgrave, quote, Motown assembled its smash hits of the 1960s, much as General Motors built its popular cars, day and night, adding in one essentialist part after the other, along its musical assembly line to deliver a uniquely American product with international appeal. And I don't think he was exaggerating. Music and art were critical, and as critical, of course, were the ministers. And so, skip to the last page here. Last page. Last page, to Cobo Hall. I don't know if you all have read that Cobo Hall speech. To me, it was Martin Luther King at his best. I mean, he was in a different register. And I think he was in a different register because he was surrounded by some of the best black preachers in America, and those were those Detroit black preachers. Right? And it's like, if you can't soar now, Martin, you have to go back to school. So when he got up on that stage to commemorate what had happened 20 years ago, he said, and I'm just going to read a paragraph or so. It's okay? I cannot begin to tell you the deep joy that comes to my heart as I participate with you in what I consider the largest and greatest demonstration for freedom ever held in the United States. The events of Birmingham, Alabama, and the more than 60 communities that have started protest movements since Birmingham are indicative of the fact that the Negro is now determined to be free. The Negro is no longer willing to accept racial segregation in any of its dimensions. But we have come to see that segregation is not only sociologically untenable, it is also politically unsound. It is morally wrong and sinful. Segregation is the body politics which must be removed before our democratic health can be realized. Segregation is wrong because it is nothing but a new form of slavery covered up with certain niceties of complexity. Segregation is wrong because it is a system of adultery perpetrated by an illicit intercourse between injustice and immorality. And in Birmingham, Alabama, and all over the South, and all over the nation, we are simply saying that we will no longer sell our birthright of freedom for a mess of segregated pottage. In a real sense, we are through with segregation, now, henceforth, and forever. Well, they're saying, you need to put on the brakes. The only answer that we can give to that is that the motor's now cranked up, and we're moving up the highway of freedom towards the city of equality. Now, if that doesn't sound like Motown, I don't know. And we can't afford to stop now because our nation has a date with destiny. We must keep moving. He added, history is replete with the bleached bones of nations. History is cluttered with the wreckage of communities that fail to follow this command. And isn't it marvelous to have a method of struggle where it is possible to stand up against an unjust system, fight it with all your might, never accept it, and yet not stoop to violence and hatred in the process? What can we do here in Detroit to help in the struggle in the South, he declared, to help us down in Alabama and Mississippi and all over? You here in Detroit must work with determination to get rid of any segregation and discrimination in Detroit, realizing that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Thank you.